Norway. Just the word sounded mysterious, exciting. Images of fjords, Vikings, and the northern lights danced in my head. I had always been drawn to the unfamiliar, the different. So, when the opportunity arose to move to Norway, I didn't hesitate. It was a chance to trade the familiar humdrum for something extraordinary. I had always been a bit restless. My 9-to-5 felt like a cage, my city apartment, a concrete box. I longed for wide-open spaces, for fresh air, for something more. Norway, with its breathtaking landscapes and promise of adventure, called to me like a siren song. I remember the moment I made up my mind. I was staring out the window of my office at the gray sky crisscrossed by power lines. I felt a familiar pang of discontent. That's when I knew. It was time for a change. It was time for Norway. The decision to move to Norway wasn't made on a whim. It had been brewing for years, fueled by travel brochures and documentaries. I devoured every bit of information I could find about this Nordic nation. I learned about its history, its culture, its people. I started learning Norwegian in my spare time, grappling with the unfamiliar sounds and grammar. I joined online forums, connecting with people who had already made the move. The more I learned, the more certain I became. Norway wasn't just a destination. It was a new beginning. Quitting my job wasn't easy. Saying goodbye to friends and family was even harder. But I knew I had to do this for myself. I had to chase this dream, this yearning for something more. And so, with a mix of excitement and trepidation, I packed my bags and boarded a plane to Norway. People often ask me, why Norway? It seemed like such a random choice, such a dramatic change. But for me, it felt right. It wasn't just the stunning scenery that drew me in, although the fjords and mountains were definitely a bonus. I was drawn to Norway's values, its emphasis on work-life balance, its respect for nature, its social equality. I wanted to experience a different way of life, one that prioritized well-being and community. Plus, the idea of living in a country where everyone spoke at least a little English was reassuring. Of course, there were practical considerations too. Norway's strong economy, excellent healthcare system, and low crime rates were all factors in my decision. But ultimately, it was a gut feeling, an intuition that told me I belonged here. My first impression of Norway was one of overwhelming beauty. As the plane descended into Oslo, I gazed out the window at a tapestry of emerald green forests and sapphire blue waterways. The air, even in the city, felt crisp and clean. People were friendly, albeit a bit reserved at first. I quickly learned that Norwegians valued directness and honesty. Small talk wasn't really their thing, but once you got to know them, they were incredibly warm and welcoming. Finding an apartment was a challenge, as it is in any major city. But I eventually found a cozy place in a neighborhood with a real sense of community. My neighbors were quick to introduce themselves and offer help with settling in. I was invited to barbecues, hikes, even a traditional Norwegian dugnad, which is basically a community cleaning day. Learning Norwegian was an adventure in itself. It was a humbling experience, to say the least. I fumbled with grammar, mispronounced words, and often resorted to a hilarious mix of English and pantomime. But my efforts were always met with patience and encouragement. Norwegians seemed to appreciate that I was trying to learn their language even if my attempts were far from perfect. And slowly but surely, I began to understand and be understood. There were many moments of hilarity and confusion along the way, like the time I accidentally told my neighbor I was pregnant instead of tired, or the time I tried to order a brunost, brown cheese, thinking it was a type of bread. But each blunder was a learning opportunity, a chance to connect with the local culture on a deeper level. Section 6. Nature's Playground. Hiking, skiing, and simply being. One of the best things about living in Norway was the easy access to nature. Whether I wanted to go hiking in the mountains, kayaking in the fjords, or simply relax by a lake, there were endless possibilities for outdoor adventures. Norwegians have a deep respect for nature, and it shows. They believe in friluftsliv, which translates to open-air living. It's a philosophy that encourages people to spend time outdoors, to connect with nature, and to appreciate its beauty. I embraced the Norwegian friluftsliv wholeheartedly. I went on epic hikes, marveled at cascading waterfalls, and even tried my hand at cross-country skiing, with mixed results. Being in nature was incredibly therapeutic. It cleared my head, calmed my soul, and reminded me of the simple joys in life. Section 7. The price of paradise. Salmon doesn't grow on trees. Living in Norway wasn't always easy, it was expensive, the winters were long and dark, and the cultural differences could sometimes be challenging. Let's just say that learning to love brown cheese and pickled herring wasn't exactly love at first bite. There were times when I missed the familiarity of home, the convenience of 24/7 supermarkets, and the ease of communication. But even in those moments of doubt, I knew I had made the right decision. I learned to adapt, to embrace the Norwegian way of life. I learned to appreciate the slower pace, the emphasis on quality over quantity, and the importance of community. And I learned that sometimes, the greatest rewards come from stepping outside your comfort zone. Section 8, Hygge times 2, Embracing the Norwegian Lifestyle. One of the things I came to love about Norway was the concept of koslig. It's similar to the Danish hygge, but with a distinctly Norwegian twist. It's about creating a feeling of warmth, comfort, and contentment, often through simple pleasures like lighting candles, enjoying good company, and indulging in delicious food. Norwegians seem to have mastered the art of koslig. They created cozy havens in their homes, gathered for long meals with friends and family, and embraced the long winter nights with a sense of peace and quietude. I found myself embracing the Norwegian lifestyle too. I invested in warm blankets and cozy sweaters, learned to make a mean batch of waffles, and discovered the joys of sitting by a crackling fire with a good book. Section 9. Finding my fjord home is where the heart is. Moving to Norway was one of the best decisions I ever made. It wasn't always easy, but it was always an adventure. It challenged me, pushed me outside my comfort zone, and allowed me to grow in ways I never thought possible. I discovered a new culture, learned a new language, and made lifelong friends. I found a sense of belonging in this land of fjords and forests, a place that felt both familiar and excitingly different. Norway wasn't just a place I lived, it became a part of me. It's where I discovered my love for hiking, my appreciation for silence, and my newfound ability to make killer waffles. It's where I learned that home isn't just a place, it's a feeling, and I found that feeling in the heart of Norway.